So excited to have this guy on the podcast today. You have seen him on Fleccas Talks on YouTube. You may have seen him on the Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News. Austen Fletcher, so happy to have you today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on. Sorry I had to go on my phone. I had some technical difficulties.
Oh, me too. It took me about like 2 months of doing my compound media show, like just screaming at my laptop before I realized like I have to buy a professional microphone. So I'm definitely a late adapter as far as technical stuff goes. But I'm so excited to have you. I'm a huge fan. I love your work, and you're a fellow Long Islander. Where in Long Island are you from?
Yeah, I grew up in Old Brookville, Nassau County, and I went to St. Anthony's out in Suffolk.
Sweet. Yeah, I am born and raised Rockville Center, so also now Nassau County girl. Yeah, I briefly saw what was going on in Merrick, but I was like, I just feel like that could be any town, you know, like you could look at any town in Long Island and be like, oh, they're super racist. Like they're
It's
just
nice to
easy.
hear a Long Island accent again. It's been a while. I heard Nassau, and I was like, oh.
You know, when I went to college, it's funny because I went to Fairfield U. I studied communication. I thought I really wanted to be a news reporter. I was like, I got the face for it. Let's do it. And then they're like, you have a Long Island accent. You probably should try to get rid of that. And so I tried, and then I got an internship at Dateline. And I was like, wow, Stone Phillips is so boring. I do not want to be part of this world. And then I interned at Conan for my senior year at college, and I was like, oh, comedy for sure. So that's why I was like, I mean, I feel like we have similar-ish backgrounds. Like you're from Long Island too, and then I heard that did you go to Kellenberg?
St. Anthony's.
Oh, St. Anthony's. Did you know a Cameron Wareham?
Mm-mm.
We're gonna play this game. Just like the back and forth to all these people. You played football at Dartmouth. I was a college athlete too. I mean, diving, I don't know, it's not a ball sport, but then you quit your Wall Street job at Citibank. You moved to LA to pursue comedy, and then you ended up started to do these videos. I think maybe for a few years now. Do you start around 2018 if I'm not?
2017, yeah.
Okay, 2017. And what kind of made you turn more towards the videos rather than just straight stand-up?
So when I was trying to get work out here, I was trying to become a writer's assistant, a production assistant. I was trying to climb kind of the ladder in Hollywood, and I realized there's a lot of gatekeepers. There was a lot of like, friend of a friend to get this, the writing assistant job you wanted went to so-and-so's nephew. So it was a lot of like, friends helping friends. And I realized that like, if I were to try to be a comedian and get on a show, my biggest hope would be having like a one line in New Girl or something, and then hope people like, oh, I like that guy, let's go find his Instagram. So it's like my future was in every situation in Hollywood, my future was in someone else's hands, because I would have to kind of like hit the gatekeepers to get into the industry. And I realized as well as like, the election happened, that I was a Trump supporter. And if I wanted a future in Hollywood, I'd have to keep that quiet. But I made a video in 2017, February, right after the inauguration, when Trump did the Muslim ban. I did a video at the airport at LAX, and I covered that. I kind of showed the craziness. I showed, realistically how uninformed a lot of the protesters were. And after that video came out, a lot of people messaged me and were like, dude, you're not going to work in Hollywood.
Wow.
No one's going to give you a job. Like, what are you thinking? And I was like, dude, no one gives me a job anyway. No one's hiring me. No one cares. No one wants to read my scripts or watch whatever I'm putting together. And I made this one video, and it got 100,000 views in one day, which was like a ton for me. Like, that was brand new. I never had that many views. So I was just like, like there's an underserved market here. The entire half the country, not even left versus right, but anyone who's just not part of the PC agenda, they don't have a lot of content being made for them. So I kind of just kept going down the road of protest interviews, because all the people at the protests were always getting the media spin. People are mad at Trump because of this, but no one ever asked them, what are you doing here? What does your sign say? Why are you against Trump? So I kind of found like an untapped market. Like Owen Schroyer was doing it. Cernovich was out there in 2016 as well, doing the live streams especially. So there was kind of like this ability to make content, entertain people, and also encourage people to get involved themselves. Because I feel like the silent majority is just constantly forfeiting the narrative. I don't want to get called racist. I don't want to get called sexist. Let's let them take what XYZ issue and run with it. And I kind of wanted to show, like, hey, I'm just a guy with a microphone taped to a spoon using a phone to film.
Yeah.
You can do this too. You can make this content too. So I kind of went down that road, never looked back. I'm not worried about not working in Hollywood anymore. I think eventually the conservatives or people on the right will be able to compete in Hollywood. So until then, I'm going to kind of keep doing this and then try to become one of the people who takes Hollywood back from the leftists eventually.
That's very inspiring, and I hope that I can join your cause, because I agree with you on so many of these points that the kind of the people in the middle, even we're kind of like the silent majority now, and it's like you either have to be like a far right or far left, and it's like, you know, everyone's trying to put somebody in a group rather than you know, like having us all work together. And I really admire the way that you talk to people on the street. I've watched so many of your videos. I'm a fan of everything you do. I really admire the way that you talk to people on the street. You're very disarming. And like, you'll go to a pride parade but you'll be wearing like all rainbow colors. You'll go to the women's march in like a pink, like, I don't know how many of these vests that you have. Like, you have like what looks like a colored construction vest, but you have one in pink, lime, orange. Like, I'm really dying to see what your closet looks like, because I've just seen you in so many different like fun outfits, but it's almost like, you're like, yeah, like I'm trying to blend in, and you're not intimidating, and you're not condescending, maybe the way that an Owen Scroyer from InfoWars might be, or maybe like a Mark Dice. You're different, and like you said in your videos, they're not gotcha videos. You're just trying to see what people have to say for themselves, and I appreciate that process. Did you start right out the gate like that, or was there kind of like a trial and error period?
It was pretty much right out of the gate. I learned how to edit before I started doing these videos. I used to take like Miley Cyrus songs and then put them on Slipknot music videos and try to make it work. So I learned how to edit that way with like timing and pacing and stuff like that. I was just like messing around for the few months before I got into this. And then, yeah, like as soon as I started, I kind of had that vibe you described. That's just kind of naturally how I am. And I just getting these videos out. The first one kind of ripped. And then the second one, I had a mini audience built. And then that one kind of ripped too. And I realized the distribution model I was going for was, I'm going to hit up the Blaze, Daily Wire, Breitbart, Fox, like all the right leaning content, media people, and just try to get them to write articles about the video, because no one was really covering the protests independently. And then once that worked a few times, I kind of got introduced to more audience, and I learned how to just edit on the fly, basically, these types of videos. So I didn't have much experience going into it, but I think naturally where my instincts were kind of lined up nicely with this independent grassroots activist journalist combo job.
I think that's great. And I really like what you said before. It really resonates with me. Like, you want to be part of this sort of like maybe middle group that takes over Hollywood now, because I've been doing stand-up now like 10 years. And before that, I did improv for 5 years. And before that, I had the internship at Conan O'Brien. And I remember being an intern, and I was like, oh, anything to work here. I'll get all the cups of coffee. I'll do anything. I'll be the best intern. I will buy all of Conan's favorite gum. I'll do anything. And I felt like I did everything. And it's still at the end of that internship process, I didn't get hired, but like, you find out, oh, this guy got hired and this guy got hired, and who do they know? And it's like, you work your ass off, and still you don't kind of push through. And I also felt that way through improv. It's like, it's kind of about who you know, and then you get kind of pushed up into a team or pushed up onto, some of these other projects. And I feel now, after 10 years of doing stand-up, that unless you're kind of more left-leaning and you're openly super liberal in your stand-up, that like a Comedy Central is probably not going to want to book you, unless it seems like the template for Comedy Central to book you on a project or a show is like, okay, do you look like you just jumped off of a United Colors of Benetton catalog, right? And are you kind of pretty liberal, and it feels like that's the template that kind of works. And recently I've started to feel like, wow, are my more libertarian leanings keeping me from getting booked on stuff? But it's like, well, what's the alternative? You pretend to be somebody else, you like pander just to get booked on shows, and casting people, and ultimately, like, that's not, how long can you keep that up for? So it is really better to just like stay true to who you are, and yeah, maybe there can be kind of a, you know, like a turning of the ship almost in terms of Hollywood. You've
I
been
think
to,
it will be that way through comedy. Like exactly like you said, it's like there's a lot of people I'm sure who had that same feeling as you did of like, do I have to adjust like my moral code and like what I believe in, or just like try to skate by? But that's not like, it's not like a viable future for a lot of people. And I think a lot of this movement is hot air. So it takes one person to say, you know what, I'm not going to do it, and then another person will, then another person will, and they'll quickly realize that the foundation that this like PC, politically correct, anti-Trump thing is all built on is just all sand. It's going to fall apart, and it's going to be on people like you, people like me, content creators who are going to have like just funny comedy again, comedy that actually makes people laugh, or people are going to have like a relief and, oh, we can laugh again. Who's the one doing it? Oh, it's this center person, the center left, center right. Because at this point, anything to the right of Ellen is like right wing. So it's like a lot of the people who assume, oh, I'm a Democrat, I'm center left. It's like these are the people we can win back because the progressive agenda is going so far left that they can't keep up. So if they're not getting exposed now, just more public things, coronavirus, the protests and riots, like a lot of these things are just going to quickly catalyze that wake up process for a lot of people. So what maybe would have taken 10 years of a culture war is now going to happen in like, you know, 12, 18 months, which is kind of crazy, but it's good because I feel like the people who don't stand for the PC culture have been taking a beating for a while, censorship on YouTube, all that kind of stuff. And they're going to kind of be, you know, ready to go to nonviolent battle. You know what I mean?
yeah. And it's not even like people like you and myself. It's like my porn star friends have been dealing with censorship for a while, like, you know, Instagram taking their stuff down. And it's like, and it's wild. Like just today, like my boyfriend tried to tweet coronavirus and 5G in the same tweet. And he was immediately locked out of all of his accounts. And it was like, I was like, this is fucking wild. Like, it just feels like it's picking up a lot of speed, and hopefully I'm hoping it explodes, because now it seems if you're not with the radical left is now like the mainstream left. And yeah, I remember like when I got my show on Compound Media, people were like, oh, well, you're obviously a Republican. You're obviously making so many assumptions. I remember people would be like, well, they're misogynist over there. Like Anthony Cumi's a misogynist. It's like, well, I'm a female host of a show. So like, where does that argument go? And people are just, they're like looking to shit on you. And it was interesting because before Compound Media, I hosted a show at the Stonewall Inn, which is a national and New York City LGBT landmark. I hosted a show there for 6 years. And I made it my job to put on like the best show possible. I was always scouting like new talent and veterans, and people from the cellar would come by, and just constantly delivering like a really good product. And like, I did that for 6 years. I didn't get any opportunities. Like, yeah, the tourists would come, they'd have a great time, always fill the room, but like nothing really came of it. And then I started doing a show on Compound Media. Within a couple months, my following went really went through the roof, and all these people coming to shows like, oh, we listened to you on Compound, like we love stand-up. I was like, wow, these are like real fans. And so I was so happy to find them, because that's who really appreciated my comedy. And I think it's kind of gross when I'll hear like comics like, well, if you like Donald Trump, go ahead and unfollow me, don't be my fan, don't come to my shows, I don't need you. And I'm like, wow, I don't have the luxury of like picking the political orientation of my fans. I feel like everyone should, if they like you, it's who cares like who they vote for, you know? So I feel like
and exactly. And like a lot of these people have become what they're trying to oppose, where it's like, you know, what's an example? Like Obey, I guess. It's like all these companies are taking like that were at once like hipster, counterculture, like cool, you know, borderline conspiracy.
Yeah.
Now all these people are like the man. So it's like Seth Rogen, yeah, stoner comedy, kind of counterculture, and now it's like he's just like some soft guy with a beard who's like, oh, you voted for Trump, unfollow me on Twitter. It's like, get the fuck out of here,
what
dude.
good
like,
does that do?
What's your art about?
Yeah. And like, even fuck the police. Like, that's the most mainstream thing you can say now. And you don't even have to know what you're talking about. Yeah, you've been to a ton of events. You've been to tons of college campuses. What would you say is the most fun event or public gathering that you've gone to do a video?
I really like Ben Shapiro protests because people like openly call him a Nazi. It's like the easiest piece of content, Like, I know I kind of plan out my golden moments. Like, not that I'm like scripting it, but I know if I'm like, you know, why are you against Ben? Oh, he supports Nazi rhetoric. And it's like, he's like the most Jewish person ever.
I've never not seen him not wearing a yarmulke.
Yeah, exactly. Pride parades are fun too, because it's the same thing. Kind of like we said before about like becoming what they hate. Like, they demand tolerance, acceptance, anything goes, to the point where they're like naked in the street in front of kids, and everyone's got to be like, this is fine. But then it's like, oh, Donald Trump, and they're like, fuck him, I want to kill him, die, like he's whatever, horrible things. And it's just like a live time, someone being hypocritical in live time within 10 seconds. So those are always my fave, because it's
I
so
loved
obvious.
so much that moment in your Pride video where you were like, you saw a woman wearing a Cynthia Nixon t-shirt and you were like, oh, you're gonna vote for her, you're excited about her, and she was like, yeah, and you were like, oh, the woman who's from Sex and the City, and she was like, yeah, and then you were like, why don't you like Trump? And you were like, and she was like, well, he came from entertainment, he came from like the entertainment industry, and I just don't think that's right. And then you in your next breath was like, oh, but you support Cynthia Nixon, the actress from Sex and the City. She was like, yeah.
She's like, yeah, I'm very excited to vote for her.
The best is when you can just, and you're not even being condescending, you're just like setting a little trap for them, and then they just like step right into it.
They go into it, and then I'm just like, oh, like, cool. Like, I'm not, they always leave the interview like, thank you so much, that was great. They don't even know like what they said or like how it's gonna look. But
yeah, you just,
like, yeah, thanks,
you
that
like
was great.
look at the camera, you're just like does Ben Shapiro, first of all, does Ben Shapiro know that you go to his events? Have you met him? It seems like you would be buds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've met him a few times, and then they always are nice about writing up or retweeting the video when I cover their events. So yeah, they've definitely been supportive, those guys. They were definitely people that were sharing me early on, like 2-3 years ago. Amanda Prestigiacomo over there as well, as a writer. She always shares my videos. So yeah, they like the videos. They kind of see it the same way we do, where it's kind of like entertaining, but also informative, but also disarming, and like, hey, don't be so scared of the mob. This is who they are, one by one. Let's get a little tough.
Was there ever a situation on a college campus where you felt like, oh, I stepped too far, I triggered the wrong person, and you felt like you were in danger?
No, not yet. I set up a Trump's Not That Bad table at CSULA, but it's like I kind of set myself up to not get punched because Trump's not that bad is all I'm arguing.
You're not asking for that much, you know?
Yeah.
You're not asking people to like love the guy. You're not asking people to hang up a poster, you know?
Exactly. I'm like literally saying like, what's one good thing that he's done? And like, you can't say one, and like, I'm the crazy, irrational, bad guy. But then a girl spit, she had a drink and then like spit the drink on me.
Oh my God.
But it was fine.
What kind of drink was it?
It was like a red, sugary, like a slushy, like one of those blue and reds that's at the movie theater. It was like the red version. It was kind of gross, but she got people on her own side too. She spit all over the people in front of her as well.
And that's the kind of drink that's gonna attract bees. You know, that's
sticky.
Sort of drink.
Yeah, bees and ants. After that, not good. But it made the video go more viral, to be honest. So I don't care. I'm not gonna ever punch back, or I'm naturally not. I don't get too defensive after something like that, and it just makes them look more irrational. Like, I'm sitting at the table saying Trump's not that bad. There's some things he's done that are undeniably good. Let's find some common ground. And then she spits on me. But I think the people watching are the real people I'm trying to target, where it's like, I'll never convince that girl who spit to like Trump, but maybe out of the 10 people,
blocked off, right?
She's blocked off, and she's done. So it's like, let her be. Maybe the 10 people watching, maybe 5 of them just assume, oh, I'm a Democrat, center, left, and I don't follow politics, but Taylor Swift tells me Trump's bad, so Trump's bad. Maybe a couple of them are like, oh, I'm on the fence, maybe I'm more libertarian. But when they see that and the choice is calm, nice me, crazy girl spitting, they're like, oh yeah, she was wrong, bam. And then I say something like, new jobs or North Korea, whatever the thing that Trump did that's good. And it's like, if they can agree, maybe they don't know how high the political stakes are. So that girl who spit knows how high the political stakes are. But it's like, if I can convince some guy watching who doesn't know how crazy things have gotten, and he'll say, yeah, like, this many new jobs is good before coronavirus, GDP, before coronavirus is good. Then it's like, that person's not progressive enough for the mob now, because they admitted that Trump's good at something. So now they're not progressive enough for the mob. They get kicked out. And as long as we're cooler and funnier with a better culture and community on the right, we can kind of like scoop these people up.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like well, I don't know if you follow Tim Dillon, but he's a comic
Of course.
also from Long Island. He and I were on the same like dance group when we were like little. I wish I could find that photo of us in like the sequin outfits, but he said like yeah, if you board something to the effect, if you board the woke boat, be prepared to get kicked out, because you have to be constantly walking on eggshells, because the moment you're not 100% hive mentality, well, like get the hell out, you know?
Exactly. And if we can go in there and find these people that are borderline or not even, who haven't been challenged yet, who think like, yeah, like defund the police or, Black Lives Matter, but they don't really realize the nuances within the group and what's really going on. If we can get them and kind of corner them in a way and be like, oh, like, do you think this is good or bad? X or, X or Y or A or B. And then they pick something that is true, but that does not fall with the progressive agenda, then they're out faster. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with my channel as well. Just convince the apolitical middle that Trump's not that bad. It's a technique anyone can use in their real life. Super rational, talk about the undeniably good things. If they can't admit it, they're irrational, but everyone watching will kind of know, like, ugh, like my side's kind of heading towards the waterfall.
Yeah, and you're not, it's interesting to look at your videos in terms of like, you're not talking to that insane girl, like you're talking to the viewer. Like you might be looking at the girl or whoever's at the protest, but it's like you're talking to the viewer in a way. Yeah, so they can see like, well,
Yeah.
this is
your side. This is your Donald Trump versus Hitler. It's
yeah.
like disagree or agree. Oh, you disagree? Sorry,
Yeah.
you're not on the team anymore.
You're feeling claustrophobic? Well, too bad, because these are your rules. And yeah. And it probably also helps like be like, you're pretty tall. Like it probably also helps like being like a tall dude who's like,
Yeah.
not an otter,
Yeah, it's true. Definitely bear, not an otter.
I saw that. You were like, am I almost an otter? And he was like, no, girl.
Yeah, it was like you're not fit enough for an otter or something. I was like, oh.
You're like, give me 3 months now. I saw your interview with Tom Arnold. Is he like the biggest Hollywood asshole you've ever interviewed?
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't shake my hand after.
What?
He just walked out.
Wow.
Yeah.
To me, a grown man, like he's a grown man. You know what I mean? Like we're in our 30s. I'm assuming your age. Sorry. But like to me, like I look at him, I go, he's like a grown ass man. He's he should not be acting like that. He wasn't letting you talk. He was interrupting a ton.
Getting all heated, going to the same like talking points, and then like making a ridiculous claim, and then trying to like boom, boom, boom with 3 other things, so he thinks it sneaks by. But then it's like, actually, like that thing you said a second ago, like let's go back to that. It's the same thing. It's just like the protesters in an adult form, where you kind of hear something ridiculous, and you're like, oh, expand on that. Like expand on, Trump's the KKK or whatever stupid thing, the white supremacy stuff. It's like, expand on that. And he really didn't have the ability to. And I think there was some times where he talked over me and I didn't get enough in, but I think there's some times where I kind of cornered him a little bit too and made him squirm a little bit.
You did a really good job with that, because I was watching that going like, I would be so intimidated by now. Like he was like 2 minutes in and I was just like, well, he's bigger, he's louder, he's like a little scarier. And he also, it's like, it reminded me of like my conversations with my dad when I was like in college, and I would like just start debating him on stuff. And it just, I was like, I just gave you so many props, because I was like, he's not being nice about it. He's not even letting you finish a sentence. And you would ask him a specific question and he would kind of dodge it and loop around to something else. He'd be like, oh, but what about this? And you were like, I don't know, you kept a really cool head, and not everybody can do that.
Thank you.
What would you say to the person maybe who truly disbelieves that the mainstream media has a liberal narrative, or like if somebody's watching this going like, I don't believe this. Like, I don't, I've always watched CNN. I've always watched, MSNBC. Like how could somebody tell, how could the average person who is brainwashed, like how can someone tell if they're brainwashed by the media?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think the media is the problem, but it's also the solution. So a lot of the people are asleep in a way, just trusting the media because it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They've been doing it forever. And they're just like, oh yeah, like it's $1 million production, camera, studio, lights, Don Lemon. And it's just like the whole production is like the magic in itself. But I would tell them it's like a big wake-up call for a lot of people who I've been talking to who are rational about it. It's like, do you guys realize that it was like, Trump's never going to become the candidate. Then Trump's never going to win. Then all the Trump supporters are racist. And then it was, 95% Hillary. Then Trump wins because the Nazis voted for him. Then Russia was going to take him down. Then it's Stormy Daniels. Then it's his tax returns. Then it's impeachment. Then it's coronavirus. Now it's Black Lives Matter protests. It's like, there's always a thing that's the most incredible, biggest problem ever. The whole world's going to end. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then it just gets swapped out with the next thing. And it's like, what happened to Stormy Daniels? What happened to impeachment? What happened to Russia? All these things. But they just kind of like treat their audience like they have a fish brain. Like they just don't remember it.
Yeah.
And then every time they do get caught lying and their audience shrinks, they kind of stretch the truth on the next thing. So they're like all in on this narrative. They're never going to be fair. So it's like, they're going to keep going all in. They're going to keep spreading the truth and lying as much as they can. But it's like, when you see the lies in the media on a really grand scale, especially like, this has been going on forever. This is like how we got into a ton of the wars in the Middle East. This is weapons of mass destruction. This is like all that stuff. You kind of see whose team the media is on. And when you kind of see one lie outright, then you kind of are like, you get brought to the rabbit hole. And then you don't go back to sleep after that. So you're like, wait, like this multi-billion-dollar corporation lied about the Charlottesville, what Trump really said, or Mexicans are rapists, like that whole thing, those both got debunked. But it's like, you see
like
it,
when he
like,
mentioned, when he was talking about, what was it, MS-13? It was like it was some kind of like a Mexican gang.
Yeah, MS-13, like, you're not saying they're best,
they're like
you're
sex
saying people with
traffickers.
problems, rapists. And then he's also said it in some are fine people, which is like, yeah, kind of like a jumbled way to say it. But if you play it out and give him the benefit of the doubt and give him the full clip in context, it's like he kind of covered his tracks. He knew what he was saying. He wasn't saying every single person that comes across as a rapist, but a lot of people that do come across are raped by the cartels. It's a trafficking business, multi-billion dollars a year. So it's like, when you see the lie, then the media is, since it's stuck to this narrative, their playbook and their resume is living. It's like, you see the clips online from impeachment, Stormy Daniels, all these things. So it's like, they have to live and die by it. So it sucks that they're brainwashing so many people, but it's also going to wake so many people up that have the one fuse lit that one time from a friend or an article or a video. Then they go back and see the fake news lies. And then it's like, oh my gosh, these guys are the PR arm of the cabal. And then you're like, bah. And then you're red pilled.
Speaking of cabals and rabbit holes and red pills, are you into Q? Are you following that stuff?
So I have followed Q since the beginning, since 2017.
Oh, wow.
And yes, since like November. And I've always looked into the things he posted and done research, and I've definitely learned a lot from it. I've made sure to stay independent though, and not, I don't really talk about it too much publicly because it's so easy to get, you're a conspiracy, you're this, you're that. I don't really use the hashtags, but I have looked at all the posts and I have researched based on the posts, and I've learned a lot from the entire operation or posting, whatever it is.
And isn't there like, so Q was started by, are they military guys? I guess it's a person or group of people that have kind of like inside knowledge. I don't know. It's like, sometimes it's hard for me to decipher them because there's like, they post on Instagram, then there's also like the Q map website. Yeah, I remember there was like a couple of nights in a row where I just like went deep into everything and like didn't come back up for like a couple days. So you sort of like follow them, but you're also not holding your breath for JFK Jr. to pop out.
Yeah, I follow them for sure. I read all the posts. I think it's super interesting and super informative. I think there's times where people that follow it interpret it incorrectly and then make claims like, oh, tomorrow there's going to be this big thing, and then nothing happens, and then everyone's like, oh, the Q people are crazy. So I would recommend for everybody just to kind of like treat it as independent information, do research. If it lines up, it lines up. It's like a great resource that way. But I don't really like publicly talk about it too much or rely on it. I would never rely on it until, it gets confirmed in some way, which is fine. So I think that's kind of how everyone should be in a way. One day maybe it gets confirmed and it's the craziest thing ever, and whoever's been paying attention the whole time will be kind of the disseminators of information. But there is always a chance that it's not good people in charge, which is unfortunate. It's just the reality of the world, and I'm sure Q people that are the Q people themselves, realize that too.
Yeah.
So there will come a time, I think, when that will either get blown up and be proven true, or get blown up and be proven not true. But it does make me wonder, because President Trump knows that a big chunk of his audience follow it, millions of people for sure.
Yeah.
So it's like, you'd think if a chunk of his movement was getting subverted in that way, he'd be like, oh guys, like the Q thing, like, no, that's nothing, that's stupid, ignore it. But the fact that I haven't heard that is, it's kind of weird, because the mainstream's been covering it too. They always write hit pieces on it. So it's kind of like, I almost wish Trump would just come out and say it, just to put it one way or the other. Say, hey guys, don't follow that. It's going to lead us to a dark place, and it's not really us. I don't know who it is. Or, confirm it a little bit. But the way it is kind of, it'll get settled soon. It feels like we're kind of coming to the head.
Right, because he's the first one to call out fake news, and then you'll read so many, whatever article, like the Washington Post or whatever, like the lefty news outlets put out about Q. It's like, oh, well, this is an alt-right group, like they'll frame it in the worst way possible. And really, it's like, these are mostly like regular people that are just kind of like sick of the way the country's been run for decades.
Yeah. Highly engaged boomers, especially, they love it. They're on every post. They do the research, and it is empowering people to be independent with their research and to be informed. So as long as people aren't just taking it like, oh, I don't think there ever has been posts. I guess Trust Sessions was an example where they just said, trust this person or don't trust this person. So that does get a little tricky. But I think it's on everyone to do their own research, and if Q post takes you into a direction where you're researching trafficking, and then you're on the FBI site and you're seeing all these stats on human trafficking, it's like, as long as you're ending on legitimate sources, that's like not a bad way to get pushed to the rabbit hole.
Yeah. If anything, it's like, oh, it just opens your mind to the possibility of these things. And I didn't even know about adrenochrome like 4 months ago. And now I'm just like, wow, you can freeze a baby kidney and ship it to another country. I'm like, I don't know.
Turns out satanic child sex trafficking pedophiles run the whole world, or whatever,
Yeah, one might be your friend. Have you gone to any of the riots or the protests lately?
I went to one in Beverly Hills last week. It was pretty good. With these, it's like in LA especially, a lot of the organizers are there, and I'm kind of like recognizable, just even on body shape alone.
Oh, really?
I'm just
why? Because you don't have a barista body type.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm just like a big block of a man. Even if I'm covered up, I think they're going to be like, who's that guy?
Wow.
So I went to one in Beverly Hills. It was fun. I saw a guy throw a glass bottle at a cop, which was crazy.
Whoa.
They were I saw them bring in a case of water. So I'm like, oh, that's nice. They're getting waters for the protesters to drink. And they all just started throwing them as like pretty heavy little bombs. Like those hurt.
So the cops brought water, and then the protesters threw the water.
Protesters brought water to themselves.
Okay.
And I assumed the best, like, oh, they're just trying to stay hydrated. And everyone started chucking them. They were throwing fireworks at the cops too. The cops shot back like beanbags and rubber bullets, pepper balls for sure. And then they did some gas, which really burned. So then after the gas, I kind of went home.
You got gassed?
I got gassed. And I was standing in front of someone who got shot with like a beanbag or a pepper ball or something. He was in front of me and just went like, got lit up, and I had to turn and run.
I'm imagining like when you learn to juggle those beanbags, like, are they that big?
I think it's like that. And it's like a big shotgun thing that shoots it. It's like,
whoa.
Yeah, it sucks. Looks like it hurts so bad.
So you got gas in your eye. Did you have to pour milk into your face,
It wasn't that bad, no. But some people I was with did have to rinse out.
Wow. Did you do any videos there? Did you ask them the same kind of questions, like? I
didn't do any videos. Yeah. I didn't do any videos. I just recorded it and put it on Twitter, some of the action, but nothing with the protesters. So I think they would have figured me out right away. And then, we were like parked kind of nearby, and I don't know, I feel like it would quickly escalate, and we were pretty far from the police. We were on the protester side, not close enough to the police.
Right. What are your thoughts on Antifa? What do you think their goals are?
Well, I think like out of the protesters now, there's like a good chunk of protesters who are legit protesters who have grievance. They're mad about police brutality, and that's fine. Like that's totally legit. Then there's the Antifa bunch, which is a organization that doesn't really want a solution. Like they just want to be crazy and burn everything down and, fuck the man, fuck capitalism. And so their end goals like don't align with anyone who likes this country. And then I think the same can be said about the looters. The looters don't want justice. They're not there for justice. They're just kind of like, oh shit, the guard's not looking, anything goes. So unfortunately, Antifa and the looters, if you break up the team, it's like they're the ones that are against America and don't like America. And they're making the whole group look bad. So in the same way they want accountability for police, call out bad cops. Most cops are good. Most protesters are good and peaceful. But if they don't call out the problem within the movement, it will get blanket labeled, unfortunately, as a riot, a looting, Antifa thing. But I don't think Antifa really has the same interest as Black Lives Matter. I think they're just using this as an opportunity to bring in chaos. And then I think bigger picture, what's going to happen is the protesters, there's a lot of videos we've seen of like citizens arrests on Antifa. Like they'll grab the guy who's breaking something and bring him to the police. Or they'll video someone doing something and then that person will get caught. Like if we can have some more accountability in that way, I think the protesters should turn on Antifa and the looters and disavow it and call it out when they can. So that's kind of my hope. But yeah, Antifa sucks. They have no good future plans for this country. They think anyone who's successful is from privilege. Anyone who's failed in anything is from oppression. And their goal is like chaos and destruction. It's not constructive criticism or, hopes of a better future.
They have the same energy of like a high school classroom when the substitute teacher doesn't show up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like
and it's just like, oh, craziness.
Match the erasers together. Draw dicks on everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Man. I've seen online a lot of these, like, it's basically proof that Antifa, like what they get paid, like basically like through the channels of, what was it called? Open Society Foundation, like one of Soros's groups. And then you can look it up pretty easily, like everyone who funds like the Open Society Foundation. And then that's who they pay. That's how they pay like the Antifa people. And like, sometimes they'll make between like a couple hundred to like over $1,000 just for like a night of whatever chaos. And I can see how that is attractive to a lot of people, in their teens or like early 20s who are like really lost, and they want to feel like they're a part of something larger than themselves. Because I remember when I was in college in Fairfield, one of my roommates was like, let's join the Students for Social Justice. And I was just like, sure, that sounds fun. That sounds fine. And
great.
then before I knew it, I'm in a van going to Georgia to go to a protest. And I the back of my mind, I go, there's probably going to be some cute guys at this protest. You know what I mean? Like this could go somewhere. And I didn't even really know what I was there for. I just, somebody said to me, this is a good cause and you should do this. And this, I think it was, maybe we went to protest the School of the Americas at, maybe it was either in Georgia or like, was it Fort Worth? I don't know. God, I don't even remember. But just it's kind of amazing how like, oh, I was at a point in my life where I could have been like prime Antifa, casting, because I just.
And how many people probably fall in that same category of like, yeah, I'm here because I'm supporting my friend, or I'm here because everyone from work came. I'm here because it was right outside my block, and I want to post on social media. It's like very few people know all the facts and have like a legit reason to be there. It is just like a mass of people who are, I would say 90% of them are brainwashed and just like think it's the right thing to do. It's fun. It's like brunch almost. It's like, oh yeah, we'll go to the protest on Saturday. Everyone will be there. We'll post to social media. we'll get back at the man. We just got out of college. We're in 100 grand of student loan debt. We just learned in college that America sucks and our parents are racist.
We're not prepared for any actual job, which is
we have no
frustrating.
job, coronavirus. And then it's just like, it's like a perfect primer for what it is. And same with the looting and stuff too. It's like a lot of people have been pent up and have no outlets. Their jobs are stopped. They have no money. And it's just like, I think a lot of people in Antifa and the looters wouldn't have been Antifa-ing and looting if there was no coronavirus.
Right. Because now you have like, no one's got to be at work. Even the people who still have jobs most people don't really have to physically go into their office. A lot of people are working remotely. Obviously you have like, the construction workers or people like that. They're probably going to be not the type to show up at a protest anyway, but like, yeah, you've got all these people with like all the time, no work to be at, which in the past, like would have stopped, I think, a lot of people from going to a protest because they'd be like, oh, it's nice, but like I have to be at my
or
job
from
at
looting
9.
too. It's
Yeah.
like, imagine looting a place where the lady's working there. There's a guy behind the counter. It's like, it's a perfect storm for like chaos, because anyone who's rational and like scared of coronavirus, which is like still a rational thing. That's a mainstream view, to be scared of the virus. It's like all those people are home. So anyone in the streets is just like the reckless ones. Then within the reckless ones, there's the violent ones. There's the ones that are willing to steal. There's the ones that are willing to escalate. So it's like a perfect storm of like rational local community staying at home, bring in the crazies and see what happens. And the police, stand down and forfeit the police station. The police aren't going to enforce anything.
And now it's like, if you're any kind of a company and you haven't put out, at this point, you haven't put out a Black Lives Matter post or statement, well, then you're screwed. It's like, it's not even like a brave thing anymore. It's like, it is like the most mainstream thing. It's like, I was comparing it to like last year, like my gay friends and we're like getting so upset. They're like, wow, look at this rampant pride marketing. Like Bank of America doesn't care if anybody's like, they don't want to support like gay people. They're just like, they want your business all the same. And the way to do that and is to be like the most marketable you can, which is like, right. With last year, it was like there's just rainbows everywhere. And which is fine if you're doing it for the right reasons. But it's like, at this point, like so many years had gone by. It's like, you're just on this train to like, get everybody's business. And that to me is what a little bit like Black Lives Matter is looking like.
There's nothing brave about it. And there was an influencer, his Instagram is King Bach. I forget his name.
King Bach?
KINGBACH, I believe.
Oh, Bach. Okay.
He's an influencer. He's a Black guy. He wrote all the names of the people that were killed. He had like this emotional thing where he's like, I'm probably going to lose sponsorships for this. And it's like, you are? Like, you think
who would you lose? Yeah.
It's like, that's like the most mainstream opinion ever. And if you didn't have a Black Lives Matter thing, you might lose sponsorships. Like I saw yesterday, there was a Black Lives Matter message from Gushers.
What?
It's like Gushers, like Gushers, like.
Man, I love Gushers.
Michael Knowles tweeted, "Dunkaroos' silence is deafening," or something. It's like Gushers. Like, do we really need it? Do we really need that? Like the social commentary from Gushers, the candy that is great.
I have always loved Gushers, along with Shark Bites, along with fruit roll-ups. But yeah, like we haven't heard a peep from Gushers in years about anything. So, wow, that's wild. And I also saw this thing that like somebody broke it down where there was like basically like if you contribute like any money to Black Lives Matter, it basically all just funnels back into the DNC. Like and I think most people don't know that they're pretty much directly just funding a political party.
Yeah, I'm sure. Same with like Planned Parenthood too. It's like all like it's all a political scheme. It's all a political arm. It's all like an arm in this like very unjust, corrupt establishment table. Planned Parenthood, same thing. They get $500 million a year, then they donate like tens of millions to Democrat political candidates. It's just like they're washing the money basically. And Black Lives Matter, I haven't looked into that one specifically, but that sounds about right. I'm sure it is. I'm sure they're getting a ton of money coming in, and then it's almost like
international money too, and like it's all just like siphoning into.
It's like how much has come in? Like I'm sure it's in the billions, or it's going to be in the. You know what I mean? Like if they continue to market it in like a few months, like it's going to be a massive, massive number. where's that money going? And, you know, what exactly is going on? Who are these people that run it?
Which is sad because like the most of these, you know, donors, like everyday people are like, oh, they think they're doing a good thing. They want to put their money towards a good cause. But it's like, imagine you're someone who's like maybe a conservative or Republican, but you're like, I got to donate to Black Lives Matter. And then, you know, they're just sketchy about where the money goes.
Oh yeah. I get tons of messages too of people that are like, oh, you know, ignore the post on my page this week. I have to just like fit in with everyone else and look normal. Or it's just like so
Wow.
frustrating, but I get it. You know, not everyone wants to quit their job and do a YouTube channel. So it's just like you have a family or you're married and it's just like you have 2 kids and yeah, like you have to, you're a photographer in LA. Yeah. Like you have to just kind of fit in and just skate
Wow.
by and post some like handshake, black and white handshake thing or something. Like,
Which everyone is on board with that. Like, I think it's almost like a kind of a racist thing to put that out there in the first place. It's like, I'm coming from a place of like, yeah, of course we're all equal. Like, you know, why do I need to like go out of my way to post a black and white
exactly.
handshake? And this was like last week or 2 weeks ago, a lot of my comedy friends were like posting black squares and it's like they going silent. And it's like, I don't like being made to feel like forced to like jump in on a fad like that. And I
And
was
like you
like,
said, it is racist that way, where it's like, oh, like you really need to post something because like you're a white woman and you're here, and then you know black people, and it's like you have to post to like, you know, to bridge the gap or whatever. And it's like, no, like I'm here, everyone's here, we're all equal. Like
yeah,
you telling me that I have to like go out of my way to help someone else when I'm like trying to help myself and figuring it out, but it was
yeah,
not easy for anyone. It's like there is a divide. There definitely is a divide, and it's just like a tone deafness from the left. And I think it's like it doesn't help with the media, like we said before. That ties into everything. It's like the framing of the issue, even the names, Antifa, and you hear everyone in the media. Antifa just stands for anti-fascist. It's anyone who's anti-fascist. Then you think like, oh yeah, I barely watch the news. I listen to Taylor Swift. Antifa, they're good. That's anti-fascist. I'm Antifa. And it's like that. Same with Black Lives Matter. Do you think Black Lives Matter? Yes, Black Lives Matter. Do I support Black Lives Matter, the group? No. But like that nuance, for 90% of the people, they just turn off. And you're like, oh, you don't support Black Lives Matter. You hate black people. So it's like they
yeah.
frame it, and it's very tricky, but it's like,
Get you into a corner, basically.
yeah, it's impressive. It's good branding and
Yeah,
marketing where it's like, oh, we'll call ourselves Black Lives Matter. So if anyone disagrees with us, we can say they don't think Black Lives Matter.
yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's brilliant. We'll call ourselves anti-fascist and we'll do fascism. And if anyone accuses us of anything, we'll say that they're fascists. So it's like the same framing, the same game, the word game. It's all like a trick or like a spell or like, you know, that kind of thing. And for a majority of the people, they just kind of are asleep. They're like, Black Lives Matter, black square, anti-fascist means no fascism. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's just like we can wake the people up and show them that it isn't what they say it is. And like the certain problems that they're highlighting are maybe not the biggest problems. And you know, Antifa isn't peaceful, and here's their organizers, here's them undercover cameras saying horrible things. Like there is an opportunity there to wake up the people in the middle who were maybe blindly going along with it.
I hope so. And I hope people realize that like celebrities, the ones that are outspoken for the left right now, they're not your friends. They're not just like you. Chrissy Teigen is not just like you. John Legend is not just like you. It's like, I think it's easier. Well, I'm already following Taylor Swift. Well, I already have Chrissy Teigen's Target cookware line. It's like I already kind of like love these celebrities and they're more accessible. They're more photogenic than like people in politics, you know, but it's like it's the same message. It's like they've sort of very smartly, I don't know, I feel like a lot of them are like in cahoots, you know. It's like, well, it's easier to take your political cues from a celebrity or an actor that you really like than to like get all online into reading about like policies and you know, your Congress people who
Yeah.
don't dress as nice.
Yeah, especially when people like the generations that are in school or just out of school, like they relearned American history as like America is this oppressive force which did all these horrible things. So it's like that the celebrities they love, that they see as authentic and they've followed forever, and they have the same view. Like, in asking someone to reverse that view is like a very big ask, where you're like, ooh, I was wrong. I was blindly following Taylor Swift and the news is lying, my whole worldview is just flipped now. Like that's a very big ask. So
Yeah.
I think like the way to get that same result would be to do like the find common ground, meet in the middle thing. And then when they get kicked out of the mob, then they're like, oh, and that's who kicked me out, the people who I was with. And it's easier for them to like disassociate with the group they were formerly with. Just because the
Yeah.
other way where it's like, hey, here's a Ben Shapiro video, or here's, an article about coronavirus that, is going to prove that coronavirus isn't what the media said. And they're going to be like, everyone else is going pretty good. But when everyone else kicks them out, and it's like, oh, what were you saying? And you were very nice and polite and open, like welcoming. Now we have like a different scenario.
Yeah, and I think once you drop the veil of like automatic no, like I'm sure you're seeing at the Ben Shapiro protests, people automatic no. But have you heard anything he's ever said or done? No, but he sucks. He's a Nazi. He's a racist. But do you know anything he believes in? No. It's like I think they have to like keep up this wall of this automatic no, because if they drop that and listen to what like even a Jordan Peterson has to say, or like Ben or Crowder, he's a little more intense, but like if you actually like listen to what these people have to say, it's like not so crazy. It makes a lot of sense. Then you're kind of confronted with like, oh wow, like like what you're saying, I've been wrong this whole time. And it's like that can ruin you. Like, wow, I've been so dumb all these years. So you have to keep up the veil of just automatic no, don't let it in, be triggered, start crying, start hyperventilating, because that's better than, I guess, being wrong.
And even the most informed person for the Ben Shapiro protest, the organizers, I always talk to them too. And they'll have like, oh yeah, in 2006, Ben Shapiro wrote an article about Palestine that was like, he called someone animals, or, it's like always like a one line from one paper from 15 years ago. Like those are the informed ones. And it kind of shows, it kind of like highlights their view in a bigger scale where it's like, the left, the PC left is cancel culture and offers no road to redemption. So It's either like, oh, you said something once, 2008, like you're screwed. And as long as if Twitter finds it and hashes it back up, like you're back in the spotlight to have your head cut off. And there's no redemption. But I think on the conservative side and the right, we realize we're not perfect people. A lot of people are religious, so there is redemption through Christianity as well. But it's like, we're not perfect. We're not going to cancel people. There's some people that are insensitive or made some stupid jokes, whatever. And we're not going to live or die by who gets to live and die. And I think that's a huge difference. So it's like the more cancellations we see from people, and then the more media lies, just like those two things are going to keep happening. And then we're going to kind of take power as everyone else, like the real people.
And then at that point, you would have to then, Austen, get a Statue of Liberty costume, because you would say, I'm accepting everybody. Like, give me, you're tired, you're hungry, you're kicked out of the woke left.
Exactly.
What do you think about, I heard that, was it HBO streaming just, I guess, canceled Gone with the Wind, or took it off of their platform. And I'm not sure if it's like going to go back or not, but it's like, I want to watch Gone with the Wind, but I know it's like a classic. I think it was taken off because of its like racial undertones. People are now pushing Christopher Columbus statues, into fountains, into the river or whatever. It seems like, these radical lefties, or aka the regular lefties, are kind of trying to, I don't know, in a sense, like erase history. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's interesting, and I think it's going to eventually lead to them changing movies and like editing them again to remove stuff. And it's so weird to see the progression, because Gone with the Wind, it's like, yeah, maybe there were some things that were racially insensitive at the time, but also the first Black woman to win an Oscar was from that movie. So there is history there. But they just like, I don't know, do they think people watch it and just like get real, like, yeah, like I like this racism, like they really assume the worst.
Who is watching that and not aware that it's an old ass movie? It's like, what, you can't talk to your parents about their grandparents, or you can't talk to your parents about their parents. It's like, this isn't like coming out of nowhere.
They assume like the worst motives, and they assume that the person watching is like such a baby that they can't like just handle like an uncomfortable moment where someone says something. And it's like, oh, we can't handle that. And anyone who does handle that, they're like Nazis and racist, and that's why they like it. Like they really attribute the worst motives in situations like that. And I think it's the same way we said before. Like it sucks that the movie's off of HBO, but a lot of people who didn't get involved are going to be like, wait a sec, that's not cool. What's going on here? And that will wake up more people. And then as long as more people wake up, then we can kind of push back on it, then retake control. But I think it just, we've forfeited the narrative for so long as the silent majority that this is kind of like, they took the line, like a fishing metaphor, like they took the line and just ran with it. And now we're getting towards the end of the reel where it's like, we gotta have to kind of set the hook and start getting this back a little bit.
Right.
Which is good. It's good.
We have kind of like collectively raised like this generation, like what you just said, you remove an uncomfortable thing, and you do that over and over. And now we have like, it seems like the generation after us, right? The people that are in their like teens and 20s right now. It's like it appears that they can't handle shit. And it's like, how are you going to get through adulthood? How are you going to form good relationships? How are you going to find a good job if like you're triggered by just somebody with a different opinion?
Yeah. And then all those things into one person, and then people coming over the top and saying, oh, those feelings, like that inadequate feeling, that emptiness, come be part of this bigger movement to dismantle white supremacy or whatever it is. And then They just like attribute one boogeyman, scapegoat it all to white supremacy, all to racism. And then now it's like you have like this motivated group. They are motivated. They are justly motivated. They have all these things going wrong, but they don't realize that their own enemy is within, and their own raising and their upbringing and culture, not so much, the white man or whatever it is.
It's all themselves. It's like, yeah, it's the identity politics over oneself. Like if you forego your personal responsibility, it's so much easier to blame it. And I know this sounds probably, if I were a Black woman, this would sound better, but it's going to automatically sound bad because I'm a white woman for me to say, it's about your personal responsibility and the choices you make rather than white supremacy. And it's like already my saying that, people would have a problem with that. What the hell do you know? You weren't raised. And it's like, I hate people telling me that I need to read a book on white fragility when I was raised, like my dad was a landscaper growing up. Like we didn't have any health insurance. Like how am I fragile? You know what I mean? Like I've had like 16 jobs since graduation. So like, it is hard to be told like, oh, you don't know because you're privileged.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel privileged, but I don't know. Oh, you don't know. So it's
and then when a person of color does say the same message, like Candace Owens, then it's, oh, here you go, trotting out a Black person to say what you, and it's like, there's no right way.
Doing it for the money.
Stay quiet. We have to listen.
Yeah, she can't possibly feel the way that she can't possibly feel those things. That can't possibly be her feeling. That's like, and then you're taking away her voice. Like, talk about minority voices being suffocated. Like that's people like Candace Owens, Like I think.
And there are different starting points in America for sure. Like some people have two parents and they grew up with money and their grandparents were rich and they invented something or whatever. Some people have one parent and it works out fine. Some people have no parents, but it's like, it all is a different upbringing, different starting point. But it's like, once you fail and say the reason you failed is because you're this color and the person who's in charge is this color. Now it's like that person who failed will never, like they won't grow the strength of their perseverance, that muscle of like drive. It'll be like, they'll just be like, oh, I failed. It's because this person doesn't like this type of people. Right. I'm one of those people. And it's like, now you'll never succeed because you'll never get out of it's out of my control. In America,
and how sad,
it's in your control more than any other country in the world.
Exactly.
Like, it's not perfect, but
you have the best chance here. You have the best chance here.
And there's things we got to fix. There's things we got to come together on and agree. And that's totally doable. But once you attribute your failure to oppression, you have no shot. There's people that come here from Somalia that are 30 years old that become very wealthy, and their children and children's children will be fine. But it's like, if someone had told them you're not going to make it because white people hate you, that person might never try the third or fourth time.
You'd never try again. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's where's the motivation to get smarter, to work harder if it doesn't matter?
It's the same with police too. If you are told the police are going to kill you, the police hate you because of your skin color, the police are not on your side, and you get approached by a cop, you justifiably are probably scared. And you're like, what's going on? And then now the cop's like, why is this person on edge so much?
Right.
And then
They can
reach
pick
quickly,
up.
maybe the cops, and it's like now you have an escalated situation because you went into it with the wrong attitude.
Yeah.
But, you know, not everyone agrees, but I think that's kind of how it goes down.
What are your hopes for the future? What would be your plan?
I think we can unite a little bit. Well, there's gonna be a bunch of Trump rallies coming up, and I think there's gonna be, I'm sure, protesters there, and I'm sure it's gonna get kind of ugly at some points where people are waiting outside and getting, you know, conflicts happening. But I'm gonna go to a lot of the Trump rallies coming up, and I'm gonna try to get protesters and Trump supporters on together to have a conversation to show they're not so far apart. And then I'm gonna try and get some protesters into the rally itself to show how nice it is and fun it is. I think they think like, you know, if you wear a Bernie hat to a Trump rally, you're gonna get beat up. But realistically, people that happened one time in one of my videos. I interviewed someone and they brought him to the front. They were like, come to the front, take my seat. Like, you know, check it out. Everyone was lovely to them. They had a great time. And it's actually the opposite. If you wear a Trump hat to the protest, you're probably not gonna leave with it. Something's gonna happen. So I'm going to try and show that angle that, you know, Trump's supporters aren't bad. These people have a bad impression. And when they see the love in real life, I think that's going to change a lot of minds and also like help people unplug from the news. Like, yeah, here's the news coverage of this. They're going to say violence erupts at Trump, blah, 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 white, blah, 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 blah. And I'll just be like, you know, I'll cover it too and say, here was the violence. Here's what happened. Or here's a person talking and being normal. And here's people becoming friends. So as long as the angle, like my angle is not going to be sold out to trying to get clicks and get people all mad at each other. My angle is going to be more of like the truth, unity, and, you know, love of country and going forward. So I think that could help unplug with the news a little bit and take the power away and switch it to independent people.
I mean, I mean, that's more than a lot of people are trying to do. You're just trying to like bring people together and have everyone feel heard.
The way it is now, it's like, we're convinced, even on the right too, like we're convinced that it's all Antifa and these like, you know, kids that are not grateful and these punk Antifa and whatever. And they think we're all Nazi, racist idiots, inbred, whatever. But when you bring people together, it's like, we aren't different. We don't want the same things. We want safety. We want our children to have a good future. We want the ability to make money, provide for our families. So it's like, I think we get put in our echo chambers. We're on our phones so much, and it's like we've really dehumanized the other side, and we've gotten dehumanized as people who don't fall into the political left very much. So it's like that's why we're seeing the videos of the 14-year-old kicking the guy on the ground in the head, you know, at the rally.
Oh my God!
Like, who would ever do that? Like, how? Like, who could you kick like that? Like a murderer or like a rapist or child rapist, like some horrible person. That's what you do that to. But like, that just kind of was like, it showed me how dehumanized we are, and it all plays into multiple things, the censorship, the echo chambers and stuff. But it's like, if we can just kind of break that for a little bit and just have a human to human contact experience, conversation, find some common ground, laugh about something, whatever it is, I think that's going to go a long way.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Austen, where do you want people to, if they're hearing about you for the first time, where should they go? If they want to follow you, what should they do? If they want to support you financially, what should they do?
Thank you. Okay, cool. At Fleccas on Instagram and Twitter, FLECCAS, youtube.com/Fleccas Talks. I have a Patreon. I haven't been on it as much this last month just because of all the craziness.
Me too. I need to throw up some boob photos immediately as soon as we're done.
Yeah.
So
I have to turn my Patreon into an OnlyFans. But yeah, patreon.com/Fleccas, but mostly Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. They're my main three. And all my content is there. It's all on all of them. So easy stuff once you get there.
Awesome. Bringing people together. Thanks, Austen.
Trying. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Bye.
Bye.